Hey,
Hello. How was your ride today?
great.
What'd you learn on the trail?
Uh, Hydrate or die. Um, Take care of your horse. Take care of yourself first so you can take care of your horse. Um, don't hurry, don't tarry. Uh, um, the, those trails are they're pretty intense. So I've done a lot of hill climbing, but not for 3 miles straight. So, and I don't know if I want to do Tevis now. I'm going to think about it. The heat is a really big deal too, because down in those canyons, the heat gets trapped in there and there's nothing to blow it out. It just gets trapped. What else? Oh, make sure your horse is okay with crossing water, like the kind of water that looks like just a black muddy trickle, like a crack in the ground, because he hates that kind of water. But he went right into the stream where it was clear and he could see the bottom. Make sure your horse can travel with others as well as alone. Um, yeah, yeah.
Good information. Tell me about the climb up from the swinging bridge to Deadwood.
The climate from Swinging Bridge.
Past Devil's Thumb.
Oh, yeah, that was the climb that was the most arduous. Yeah, it was really intense. I mean, I felt good for myself, but I was always concerned about my horse. You know, I did whatever I could to take care of me. Um, but we're asking them to do this. I think we're asking a lot of them. So I was concerned about my horse, but the views were incredible. I mean, we were in country today. This place is country. It is beautiful. It's magnificent. Magnificent. Every view was breathtaking. I really felt, and I might cry because I really feel like this is a special place. I saw God everywhere. Every view. I just think this is a wonderful community, and I'm really glad that I got to do this. I wasn't even like I didn't enter when entries were first open. Because it wasn't even a plan. I kind of just forgot all about endurance because I've been helping my daughter pursue her horse dreams. Um, and there was already a wait list. So I figured I'm never going to get it. And my husband is the one that said, I think you should put your name on that wait list. And I did. And it was just last week that Jean Nixon sent me an email and, hey, there's an opening. There was last minute cancellations. Can you make it? And I sent her my money right away, and I just made it all happen in a week. So I had a week to plan it.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm from a little town. It's a little rural community called Leona Valley. It's north of Los Angeles, in between the Antelope Valley and Santa Clarita Valley. And I do most of my riding there.
Yeah.
I volunteered at Tevis in 2017. So I volunteered at Forest Hill Vet Check. But we decided to go to Roby Park because I wanted to see everything about Tevis. We went to the starting line. We weren't there the morning the race started. We were there the night before. And actually, Chicken Hawk reminds me a lot of Roby Park. Like it's kind of got that same little horseshoe setup, right? So when I got here, it had a familiar feel to it.
The Tevis is the iconic 100-mile ride that started in the late 1950s. The first starting point was actually on the shore of Lake Tahoe, climbed up over the Sierra Mountains, through the canyons of the Sierra foothills where the gold rush reached its peak, finished in the gold rush town of Auburn, which is on the upslope from Sacramento. It's been an iconic ride, and because it's covered the exact same trail, very close to the same trail over the mountains. It has developed that reputation of, you've done Tevis. Well, everybody knows what that means. It's going to be that trail that climbs Squaw Peak, where you look back over the Lake Tahoe at sunrise. You know about the iconic Cougar Rock, which is in most of the pictures, if Tevis is defined. The other iconic area is the canyons, and that is the middle section of the ride that begins at about 37 miles and takes you through to about another 20 miles, 30 miles. Anyway, it's these steep river canyons. Nothing else in the world comes close. And then you still have another 40 miles to go after traversing the first 60, are difficult. And then you leave the little town of Forest Hill. Years ago, it stayed on top, and then Wendell Roby said, I want this trail to be a trail. And as the top is developed, it looks more like a neighborhood and not a trail. So Wendell made a point back in the 70s to cut a trail along the American River Canyon. And then now we go through town, and then you drop on the south face of the middle fork of the American River. And you head on with some real climbs, cross the river. That's another iconic moment, is you cross the river to the south side of the middle fork. And then you're headed home. And then you have the most iconic, which is No Hands Bridge. And that is about 5 miles from home. You can hear there's a whole lot of unique moments that you cannot, as an endurance rider, say, oh, so it's like the Vermont 100, it's like Old Dominion, it's like Bighorn. No, because the elevation change, the weather change, the surface change is dramatic. So this is one trail where you don't want to be surprised. You don't want to just say, well, I've done these, so I'll just go and I'll be nicely surprised. No. And we have about, to complicate things for the assurance and safety of the horse, we have about 8 veterinary examinations. So it's a very mentally strategic trail to traverse. And they have cutoffs. So the better you know the trail, the better job you can do to get your horse over it safely and efficiently. You don't have extra time. And it's hard to conceive, well, why don't you? There's the fallacy, the canyons, it's only 6 miles from Last Chance to Devil's Thumb. How hard can 6 miles be? That gets people into trouble because they approach it too fast if they don't understand the trail. And they let the horse climb a little too quickly on the bottom end, and the horse is gassed out at the top. That's dangerous. So over time, people have informally ridden it for years. You know, a friend local, they'll take you out. Until recently, the trail wasn't marked until very close to the ride. So it was very difficult for someone who was not local to really understand the ground and respect it. 2007, somebody had a good idea. Why don't we have, they call it the education ride. And what that is what we have now, which is a weekend of learning about various aspects of how to prepare a horse, nutrition, shoeing, your own personal hydration, human fitness, all those layers that come into developing a horse to be successful. And then as part of that weekend, you are transported up to the first major vet check at 37 miles, Robinson Flat. And that's the first rest after the start, where it's a mandatory hold. So you can really have a crew in there that can get a horse back to equilibrium and fix any nicks and dings that happen while crossing the Sierra. And your morale's up because you see people. That's nice. And then you're released after about an hour. And then after that check, that's when you head into the canyons. So that's where it gets real. And in my experience, no matter what the talent of the horse, they can be very strong on the front end. And I've never tried to outrun heat. It's just, you just want to survive that first 37 miles with a safe horse and a decent pace that's good for your horse, no one else. And it's interesting, you leave Robinson, it's usually you leave anywhere from front runners about 10 in the morning to last horses through at 1 o'clock. Well, now you're in the heat of the day. And it's interesting how they all get down to business. They may think they're just too big for anything to boss them around. And then they're listening. And then the work for you begins, because the canyons are so steep. If you keep yourself fit, you can now get off and jog and walk into the canyons with your horse. And some people get themselves fit enough that they then tail their horse out of the canyon. So they stay off and are either leading them out, or the horse pulls them out of the canyon and you have a tailing line. All those checks, like Last Chance, which I think is 12 miles further from Robinson, it's when your pulse is down and you feel the horse is ready, you leave. So you see, there's all kinds of things to think about. And if you practice the trail in advance, you really know to ride to the horse's strengths and protect him from his weaknesses. But you've always got the clock ticking. Many will finish in the last hour because they are, let's say they're at a hot check the middle of the ride and they're hungry, they're tired, and they just forget to be efficient with their time. So whatever speed the horse carried on the trail, now they're losing all that time in the check because you did not multitask and get the horse fully cooled, all those different things. And where the education ride comes in is we have got, I start just 40 maximum, and then we have ideally 20 mentors. So each of these mentors who are experienced Tevis winners will teach you what they've come to learn from the trail. And then you can carry what applies to you, to your horse, and where his strengths and weaknesses are. So it's become a very invaluable tool. And I've been asked, why doesn't everybody do this? And why isn't it required? Well, that's not the way the sport's ever operated. Why they don't take advantage of the opportunity, everybody has a reason. We do have a fitness qualification for the horse, because the rider, they're mentored. They've got brains with them. They've got an experienced rider. The horse, if he's never been out with much trail riding, he's going to maybe not be fit, maybe not be trail savvy. This trail is mostly on a cliff through the canyons. So if you have a horse who does not respect you and gets into an argument with you, either going into a steep downhill or in a very narrow trail, and as horses will do, kind of pitch a hip sideways or something, you will go off the cliff. So it behooves any rider to have a horse that respects them. And when told, we must take this section this way, any mountain trail rider knows how that is. And the horse says no, now you're in danger, because there's no room for the horse to get his feet wrong. And it isn't that the trail is dangerous so much as the trail demands a trained horse and a rider who has the trust of the horse under him. If they don't, I just personally wouldn't take the horse. If the horse is close enough, on the education ride, we do our Friday night ride, and we ride the 2 miles over to Michigan Bluff and have ice cream. Bring it in with on dry ice. And everybody, the current fad is push-up pops, but we also have ice cream bars. And then they learn some of the tricks to riding after dark safely. And they come back, and what we are able to see is, can the horse manage his emotions in a crowd? Not all horses can. They can be brilliant by themselves. You get them with traffic coming up behind them, and something comes undone. And it can't happen on the Tevis Trail because you cannot control the people around you or the horses. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the trail under you. All you can control is your relationship with the horse, and that happens in advance. It can't happen the day of, and it can't happen anywhere on the trail. Let's say, okay, my horse settles down after 30 miles. Well, what the problem is, you traverse Highway 89 after leaving the start at Roby Park, and now you're climbing on the mountainside that parallels Squaw Valley. That's another cliff trail. So you're only 10 miles in, you're still in traffic, and now you're on a cliff trail. There have been accidents up there. The rider gets dumped, and the horse will turn, start running for quote home, and take other horses out. So we don't want to scare people, but we also don't want people to say, well, because I've done this, this will be okay. It's unique, and that's why the Ed Ride is such a valuable resource to any rider. And we have riders coming in from Montana, Canada, just to do the Ed Ride, Utah, Arizona. Some years we have them coming from further east, and what they typically do will find someone to keep their horse with for the summer, to let the horse have a break after the education ride, fly out a little early from Virginia or wherever they live, and do a little bit more training on the horse. It's good to get them used to the heat, and then you're gonna have a great day on the Tevis. And our average for completions over the years has been the Tevis itself, because of everything we've talked about, is about 50%. Some a little higher, some a little lower, but it's 50%. When someone has done the education ride, their odds go up between 60 and 70%. So you've now given yourself a 20% average, 20% increased chance of finishing. How can that be? Well, because you know the trail. And you've gotten to know it with people who've ridden it. Instead of coming out here by yourself and saying, well, I'm just going to ride the trail, and you get out there, well, there's no supplemental water, there's no vets, and there's nobody to say, you're just looking at this ground, well, how the heck am I going to navigate this? Well, you get to make it up with your imagination, or you get an experienced endurance rider saying to you, because of what came before and what's coming after, this is how you're going to ride this. Keep your horse the safest. Huge advantage. Instead of no water at Deadwood, we truck water in. Instead of water down in a pond that seems to be too cold for horses to want to drink, at Last Chance, we bring water in. They're drinking, and they're sponged and cooled. So it's the best investment you can make for your horse, and it's less expensive than the average saddle pad of any quality, and a fraction of the cost of any saddle. So everybody's invited to apply. We had a big waiting list this year, and horses, the minute you say Tevis, will say, you know what? You see that? Fill in the blank in the morning.
So, Chuck, when I say the word Tevis, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
One tough ride.
That's a good answer. I thought you'd probably say a lot of work because of how much effort you've put in, especially the last 7 years as ride director.
It's tough to put the ride on. It's tough to enter the ride and get your horse to the starting line sound. It's tough to get it through the ride and finish. It's tough if you get pulled, especially if you get pulled at the finish line. This is a tough ride in any aspect of it. If you're not looking for a tough ride, come crew it for somebody and get used to it that way.
You see that dog? He's never scared me before. Now he's going to scare me, and I'm going to try to go through a fence, and I'm going to cut myself. And you're only a week out. So horses have a way of hurting themselves when you have big plans for them. I guess that's where I'm going. They just do that. So you go ahead and you put in your entry. We had people this year said, oh, well, it's full, because it filled in 2 weeks. We had 57 horses, 17 on the waiting list, and I think we started 32 today. So 8 under. And every one of those people that didn't come wanted to come, and the horse had other plans. So never give up. Never give up. It's the same way with the Tevis. You never stop trying. And so sign up, because our camp here out near Michigan Bluff is the prettiest place, one of them in the Sierra, because we're at a good elevation. We get the upslope cool breeze every afternoon, and you are just a stone's throw from the canyons and a stone's throw from Forest Hill to get a meal. So you can just come out here and camp anytime. It's a developed recreational site now. We have a beautiful well that produces over 100 gallons a minute, and we're gathering the money through grants and whatnot to go ahead and get a full-time. Now we run it with a generator. Eventually we will have the full work, so you can come up here any time of the year and have water. We have a vault toilet now, and you're within half an hour of Forest Hill. So, and a great market in Forest Hill to get provisions. So there's no excuse. And with that, enter for next year.
We did the Swinging Bridge Canyon, and from Robinson, we went through the Swinging Bridge Canyon, and it was a long day. Hot.
It was hard.
What'd you learn today, if anything?
To bring tape on my on my saddleback.
We had to fix a broken stirrup.
My stirrup broke like 5 miles out.
Yeah.
So I will carry that from now on.